So, hello everyone. Welcome to the Diversity Roundtable. I am Salma Zadeli. I'm the Vice Chair of the Diversity Committee of the Europlanet Society. So I start first with only one or two slides that you already saw in the General Assembly, but I go a bit more in detail to introduce who we are, what we do. And after that, we will have a closer look at some numbers and statistics of the Europlanet activities. And we would really like to have after it an open discussion to hear your thoughts, your questions, to sort of let's talk about it really. So the diversity committee, this is who we are. We have only a few photos. It doesn't the images are not representative of everyone. So the chair is Vic Person from the Open University. I'm the deputy chair. We have our secretary, Marina Mola. She's actually a school teacher from Greece. We have a representative from the executive board, that's Ann Karin. There is always an EPEC representative sitting with us. For now is Noah. And when we come close to EPSC, well, this year maybe we miss it because it's in the US, but for next, we'll skip it. For next year, we will always have someone from the LAC sitting in the diversity committee so that we can coordinate our events, our questions. We can be in direct contact with the LAC as well. And then each regional hub has a representative, a diversity officer. So here is the list. From Benelux is Ariana, she's sitting there. Central Europe is Anna Loziak. From the French hub, we have Lea. Germany, Italy, Ireland, and UK hubs are open. So if you are affiliated to one of these hubs and you are curious and you think like, oh, maybe I can sit there and listen and I might have a contribution, please come talk to us. We would love to have you on board. And then we have the Northern Hub is Arnas who represented. The Southeastern Europe Hub is Marina. Spain and Portugal Hub, Joao. And we have Switzerland Hub, Maria. So these are the people. Please remember their names. You have to be, you are most probably in one of these hubs. See who they are. You can be in contact with them or with us on top, with whoever you want. And share your ideas and let's have some exchange with us. So what do we do? This is actually an incomplete slide. This morning I was looking at it and I was like, oh, this and this are missing. But, well, that's work in progress. So as I also mentioned on Tuesday, we write or we review chair guidelines, convener guidelines, the training handouts. We review code of conduct. Now we are in the process of reviewing it for the association. We are involved in the reporting of the breach of code of conduct. That is, it can happen. Sometimes there's a breach of code of conduct that is reported and the diversity committee among other people is involved in taking care of the reporting, taking actions and seeing into the problem that's been reported. Back in time, in COVID time, I'm glad that it's in the past now, these kind of statements for COVID, for Ukraine war, when Europlanet does this kind of statements, we are always on board. Either we draft it or we review it. We always comment on it at least. We sit again in the EPSC board. We always listen to all the discussions. We make sure that the accessibility is correct. Like we recently had this idea of having a gender neutral toilet. We started in the EPSC, now in ERIM as well. So these are all ideas that we got from the community, and this is now, it has become a common topic in EPSC. The silent room is another item that we got as idea from the community, and for now is a regular item on Europlanet activities and events. We have we try to organize childcare. This is something that I would really like to also talk here at the end, maybe not at the beginning, but at the end of our meeting today. I would like to gather some ideas how we can better organize childcare, because it's expensive, and we need to also see how others they do, take some models, and if there are ideas how do we can do it in a better way, how can we organize it. We have it for EPSC. We had a very good childcare organized. For ERIM is a bit now, we didn't manage to do it as well. We didn't know how many kids are going to be. That's always the biggest input that we miss. But we had good help among us. We managed. But yeah, how can we improve it for future? How can we have a better system to have regular childcare for our events? Then we do little things like having pronoun buttons to, you know, advertise and to promote using pronouns, to put it on our badges. We have a booth, especially at EPSC. There is Wiki Editathon, which is a very successful program that we have. We always advertise it during EPSC or now during ERIM, but it's something that's running during the whole year. You can go visit on the Europlanet website if you are curious, or Ariana is sitting here, raise your hand. You can go talk to her. It's all about writing, editing Wikipedia pages, having more entries about women in astronomy, in planetary science. There are monthly meetings to, you know, sit together to write on Wikipedia. So if you are interested, please contact Ariana, go on the webpage, read about it, and we always need more people to be involved. There is also diversity keynote that we always have during EPSC. For that, that's also an item that we really need input. If you come across a talk by someone who's talking about diversity and at your institute or even online, you hear someone who is a very good speaker, makes good points, just provide us their name. We are really very interested to invite them to give a talk at EPSC for the keynote, diversity keynote talk. We have also different events. We organize often allyship meeting during EPSC to talk about allyship. Yeah, the goal is to reach actually not only to the women, to the non-Europeans, to people from underrepresented countries, but the other way around, to have men, white, Western, that they come, we can talk to them. That's why it's called allyship, not to build allies. We have in the last EPSC, the last virtual EPSC, we had a very nice training, bystander training, and we are hoping to be able to have it again in EPSC in Berlin, so in 2024. This is a training about how to be the best bystander, if I can define it like this. If you observe a very uncomfortable situation, there is a harassment or something happening, how to react, what should you do as an observer, what can you do? And I found it a very good training, and we are going to have it again, hopefully, for Berlin 2024. And roundtables, this is what's happening now here. So now I want to ask if is there any question about the diversity committee, who we are, what we do, any comment here from the hubs or from people, curious people here, anything, or from online people? Then if not, I think Anita and Mate, they have a few slides for us. Yeah, there you go. And then after that, the floor is open for discussion. Thank you. Is it? Yeah, I think.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mate from Wigner. And with Andrea and Anita, we are in the widening participation task. So I'd just like to give you a short review about the underrepresented states in planetary sciences. So underrepresented states in science, we can divide European Union as non-underrepresented states and underrepresented states. And if you take the population, it's 50-50%. But if we look at the underrepresented states in science, it's under about 25%. And it seems like the gap is increasing. I mean, in Hungary, at least, we can see that in the past years, it's increasing. So it leads to a problem that the diversity decreases. And we can guess this data from Europlanet Society memberships, and also the percentages of attendees in EPSC meetings. On the bottom right side, you can see the countries belonging to the underrepresented states. And first, we like to find the sources of the problem, which can be, it's also always financing, but also the priorities of countries or facilities, and also the management of facilities can lead to these problems. Yeah, I also heard that in many Europlanet projects, it's from underrepresented states, there are too few people coming to participate. So what can we do about this problem is it seems to be a bigger problem than our scope. So it's like more a social or political problem, but we can still help to improve the trends. So Europlanet offers a project that can help, like this MOOC project in Greece, also EPSC bursaries and programs for exchange. And also on the previous slide, you can also see that in 2017, when EPSC was held in Latvia, there were a lot more attendees from underrepresented states. So in Riga, and also I can probably see, I'm not updated yet, but also this year I can see many people from underrepresented states. So it also helps. Yeah, and the most important thing is that we have the connection. Underrepresented states and non-underrepresented states have connection in science and support. And if you have any ideas about how to improve or what the problems could be, then please contact us. And Anita will give you more updated numbers after me. Thank you.
Right. So yeah, I think what will be really interesting today is not only to carry on some of the conversations that we've had over this week with members of the community, and particularly those involved in the Central Europe Hub. We had a really good discussion on, whatever day it was, Tuesday, I think. It's been a long week, but there was a really good discussion that went on for that really kind of brought together a whole load of issues and gave us a lot of food for thought to carry on. What will be interesting today is we have representatives from a number of other communities here, from the astronomy community, from other areas of science, and so hearing from those communities about what kind of metrics they gather, what kind of information they have about inclusion and diversity in their communities would be really, really interesting and really helpful. So Mate has touched on EPSC, and we have been, we collect the numbers for who attends EPSC every year. We started EPSC, our Europlanet Science Congress, originally the European Planetary Science Congress, got renamed a couple of years ago in 2006, and we've been tracking the numbers since 2011. In terms of who actually comes, we have a lot of Americans that come to our meeting, but in particular in the joint meetings. But the bulk of the attendees tend to be made up of sort of the 5 big countries, so France and Italy and Spain and the UK and Germany. It's not until you get down to Poland really that is the largest community represented overall in that 2011 to 2022 numbers. And the rest, we have very small numbers, as Mate has already reported. Last year, this is the numbers from EPSC at EPSC 2022 in Granada, and it was 9%. So, you know, we bump along the bottom collectively. If we hit around 10%, then we're lucky. If we occasionally have an event like we had in Riga, where we have a bigger community representation, then it goes up a bit, and then the next year back in Berlin, it falls off again. So it's usually under 10%. Here we are in ERIM here in Slovakia, and we've gone up to 25%. So we know that really, and we found even the 2 years that we had our big meeting online, we had nearly 2,000 people attending that, and still we were at that very low level in terms of participating. So really to reach communities in Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Northern Baltics, Southeast Europe, we need to go there. We need to go and physically meet the communities. And while there are many advantages, and we had a big session about sustainability and the benefits of not traveling, there are things that we need to do and travel. And I think one of those is engaging with communities here and developing that and expanding our community and user base. In terms of our transnational access, the projects that are funded, the pink ones, okay, so in the graph, the orange ones are the total applications and the green bars are the total that are funded. And then I've highlighted with the pink circles the underrepresented countries that have made the applications, and the blue ones are underrepresented but not European. So we have quite a lot of countries that submit applications. As in terms of overall kind of, you know, a spread, we still have a lot of countries, again, coming from those big five. The Italians are massively overrepresented in terms of how many they put in. And I think, you know, that's partly down to people and expertise, but maybe to do with dissemination channels as well. So, you know, there's a communication issue in getting the word out that there is this opportunity. Then there is something that we've struggled with for a long time, in that probably the proportion that get funded are also not as good, and there are reasons for that. Partly it's less practice in putting together the proposals and applications. There are less people around. We were talking on Tuesday about having that critical mass of people that can have expertise and can advise and can support and can help you in putting together proposals and presentations. But we're probably at the end of our TA calls, and we're probably not going to have another one in this project, but this is something that if we go forward with future Space IRI or whatever, this is something that we need to pay particular attention to, and whether we do that through training workshops, more training workshops, or other ideas, this is something we can talk about a bit today. In terms of gender, the overall gender breakdown, this comes from the IAU website. So the gender breakdown is a bit better. Early on in careers, it's sort of the early careers bit is sort of late 30%, so 38% for the sort of 25 to 30, 35%, and then it drops off and drops off and drops off as you get more seniority and older people. Within Europlanet, our gender workforce overall, so this is what we report in the portal to the European Commission. We track all of the people that work for beneficiaries on the project, and we're a bit better than the average for the IAU. So we have 42% female, 58% male. And the officers, so actually our management team, the project management, the work package leaders, task leaders, we're a bit better than that still. So we're about 45% to 55% female to male. Even better than that is the Telescope Network. The Telescope Network is actually our shining example of inclusion and diversity, in the gender balance is almost balanced. And sorry, I didn't include these figures, but I should have done. The number of PI projects led by underrepresented states within Europe is very high. Grażyna, do you have a number off the top of your head? She doesn't remember, not off the top of her head, but I mean, this is something that we can put in Hoover and share at a later point. The TA visitors, it was better than this actually. Again, it was sort of 40-something% in the first call. However, there were not so many, there weren't many projects in the first call reporting period. Actually, as we're progressing through the project, we're now kind of back to more of the baseline of where, of the overall gender breakdown of the community. Something else just to bear in mind is the early career stages, or the career stages. I don't have this for the research infrastructure, but I do for the society. We do have it for the research infrastructure. I just don't have a slide that says it. But our community is very young, and especially within the society, within terms of people here, there is a very high percentage of early careers people that participate. And in terms of our membership of our fledgling society, which has 350-ish, 400, 350-ish members, I think, at the moment, that's about 35% female to 6% male. So again, sort of broadly in line with the overall community. And finally, I think this is the final one. This is the leadership of the Europlanet Society, the people on the board. Actually, that's female dominated. So that's at least some area where we have some impact. So that's the basic stats that we have at the moment, and they are a bit ropey. We have been planning for years. Since 2020, we have had an aspiration to do a demographic survey so that we actually know who our community is. We think that the planetary community, we say that it's about 1,000 tenured researchers and about 5,000 early career researchers. We say that it's spread through more than 200 institutes in 20 plus countries, but it's not very robust. I think that kind of dates back to something that somebody kind of figured out on the back of an envelope for a proposal many years ago, and that's kind of been iterated and expanded on. We don't really know. So we would like, if there is money left at the end of the proposal to do this, we would like to do a proper demographic survey. And then we do think it's something that is important and we should be trying to do every, say, 5 years or something, so that we actually understand who our community is and who we're trying to reach, and how best we can do that. Because, you know, back to all of the things that we were talking about this week, and marketing and providing services, if we don't know who our users are, then you can't do that properly. So I'm going to now hand back to Solmaz, who will chair the discussion. Okay.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Mate, for the numbers and presentations. So now I would say let's talk about it. I have actually one question. Oh yeah, thank you first. I was curious because these two events in the ERIM here and in Riga, there are more people from the underrepresented countries. But why? Because it's cheaper to travel, or is it because the feeling is, oh, I don't know, it's easier to go to Riga or to Bratislava? What do you think? I don't know if there is even a concrete answer, but like,
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, obviously there are people from the local institution that come, and that bumps up the figures. However, I think even beyond that, and the Riga one was quite interesting in that there was more of a participation than we would normally expect from other Central European widening participation countries. Now, it's really hard to know, and I think it does depend a bit year on year as to what happens, and particularly in a world where everything is so unstable at the moment, and you know, you have COVID, you have all kinds of funding issues that happen. So it's difficult to draw really good conclusions from any one event. But I think the things that we do know is that, or at least for me, I was expecting that in 2020 and 2021, when we held it virtually, that there would be more engagement than normal from underrepresented countries, and there wasn't really. I mean, it was a little bit, but not massively. When we've tried to, and Andrea, but Mate can talk on this. I think it does seem to be that trying to do virtual workshops, it's hard to to do. It's hard to reach community. And I think for people to really understand what Europlanet is and feel any kind of connection to it, it does seem to be quite important to go to countries. And I mean, just one more point before I hand over to Mate, is that the workshops that we have, for example, in Greece, there's a lot of familiar faces that have come back from there. So, you know, you go, you provide some training, you get to know people, they see another event, and then they come. So there is I can't think what the word is.
Yeah, there's a effect of, yeah. But that means we lost a lot of people from Riga. No, all those maybe students who went to Riga and presented their work, we might have not seen them anymore. No, because yeah, and that's a interesting thing to think about. Like, where went they? Are they still in science? Are they maybe they don't do research anymore, or they don't attend EPSC? Why? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the following year was in Berlin, and it was quite a cheap meeting relatively. And though we did have issues, I think we had issues with accommodation. There was a motor show or something, wasn't there? So the accommodation ended up being quite.
But there was also EANA. They also provided bursaries.
Yeah. So difficult to kind of figure out. Mate, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I think it's also a lot of reasons can be. I can talk about our institute, like which is Wigner. From my perspective, is that it's a lot easier to go to East Europe for us. It's cheaper and it's closer. And for us, that's why we also put management in the problems, because we have a lot of trouble with management. And if we have to ask for more money, it gets harder. So for me, I don't know about the other countries.
Well, I assume travel costs and overnight, like accommodations, they play the biggest role, because otherwise registration is always the same. And yeah, Nigel, have you finished?
Yes.
I think it would be interesting for some of the other ones to get comments from the other research infrastructures to see if they have the same issues. We are tasked, and it will be common in any future project that we do, to increase the interaction with people. I mean, the figures you put up, Mate, which shows that 50% of the population are in these countries, for example, and that's an academic. That's people who like could go into any of the STEM type subjects, but are they doing that? Are these countries not supporting STEM? Are they going into other areas, etc.? And it would be it'd be quite interesting if we could get some of the other networks here to talk about whether whether this is a common problem, and if there's other ways that they've done about trying to increase the diversity, because I think it does seem to be. I think it's a common problem, but they may have got some solutions which are clever. So we've got some of the people in the room from the other networks. It would be useful to hear from them. Although Wolf is here for the AI, so that's a good one. And Isabella, Orp, who wants to go first?
So my name is Isabella Rothman. I'm one of the managers for Optical Readiness Pilot Project. So what is the EPSC first would be my question.
It's our conference.
It's your conference. So it's about everything, right? Everybody's coming. Okay. So we don't have this kind of stuff, so it would be difficult to compare. But about the training, for example, we have at least 50% participation, and this is done on the level by the selection. So we try to, by the selection, we have more, let's say, requests than we can have people on. And I noticed that we have selection, first of all, on the quality, of course, of the application, but we also take care that there will be gender balance and that there will be also distribution. So if at the end you have gender balance and you want to also see which countries you want to involve, then some of them will have priorities. So this is on transnational access. I don't have my numbers now in the head, so I think it is not so bad with the transnational access, or the PIs at least. I think we are by 40% or something like this, but I have to check on each infrastructures. With the board and the work package leaders, this will be more male. And you could notice this when we had in the previous RadioNet, when we had more technical meetings and workshops, then they were dominated, of course, by male than the trainings or scientific events. I think this is what I can say at present, what we have with the diversity.
Okay, I think Wolf has also a comment.
Yeah, I think I can only speak of two experiences. The first one is, of course, the European Astrobiology Institutes, where we have the situation that we can only spend money for members of the institute, apart from invited speakers and lecturers at summer schools. And we have got 4 of our 22 participating institutions are from less represented member states. And that actually reflects then, I think, very nicely also in the kind of attendance we have there. So we actually encourage attendance from there. And I think there always been some people from these countries also in a reasonable. When it comes to gender balance, I think we already have come very far. Also, the Nordic Network of Astrobiology, which somewhat preceded the European Astrobiology Institute. Once in Iceland, we had actually an excess of women, so that we were joking that we start to quote in men. But it was always very balanced. And the interesting thing is, about 10 years ago or something like that, it was so that more of the astronomers and physicists were men, and that was compensated by a more female majority amongst biologists and geologists, but this is also not the case anymore. So it's going very evenly everywhere. So I mean, we are always counting, but I never found any big deviation from the 50-50 percentage.
Okay. So do you have these statistics on your website? Is it like to compare with Europlanet online?
We did not really have any statistics, but it's easy to find because I have got the address list. It would be easy to work out, but there never was any issue. You have also to count in the number of application.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's actually more important, to see.
You see the success rate.
Is Anita, are these numbers, the slides that you presented, are they online? And is it possible to find them on Europlanet website, or is it like?
I don't know, but they will be after we publish our council meeting slides. So they sorry, fail. Whoops. They will be after tomorrow because we published the slides from our council meeting, and I'll be giving the presentation, the full presentation with that tomorrow. So they will be there after that. But they are a bit hidden. One of the things that we have been planning is Ariana has been tracking this from or looking at gender balance and the impacts of COVID in particular on the Italian community and the wider astronomical community, and has been invited by JGR to submit some articles. So Ariana, do you want to just tell us a bit about that?
Yes, yeah. So there are 2 different things. I've been tracking, so there is a published paper on the participation of women on the ESA planetary mission. And then regarding COVID times, I'm co-author of another paper about the impact of COVID on the Italian astronomical community. And that was from Laura Inno et al., I think 2020, if I'm not, or 20 or 21. One of the 2. And then, yes, there is a special issue going on, so it's without deadline, but yeah, it's even worse that it's not a deadline because we are never going to an end. And it's from all JGR, so from all the journals. And I was invited by the editor-in-chief from JGR Planets to do something relative to planets, and even better if from Europe, because you can go to have a look. If you look for JGR specialist on diversity, you will have the list of all the articles, and most of them are centered on US. And so the idea is to do something about planetary situation, especially outside US. I think would be very interesting.
So your paper is focusing on COVID, or is it?
No. It's really, so there are two, we were planning within the diversity committee to do two papers. One more general, center really on the activity or on the statistic, in fact, that Anita is showing, and also speaking of all the activities that we have been doing in diversity community. So basically, it's also your slide to show really what is going on. And then another one, I think, will be very interesting, focusing on the widening part, so on the statistic that Metis and Andrea are showing, and I think that would be also, both of them are worth the paper. So we have some people that are interested to write it, but we should really sit down and write. So because without deadline, it means that we are never going to do it. So we should really put an internal deadline because it's going on for
Let's say EPSC in Berlin, you present the paper?
Yes, maybe we can say that. EPSC in Berlin, we present.
No, it should be published.
A published paper, okay. With an abstract, yes.
Right. So is there any, oh yeah, Nigel.
I'm just going to look at Zold sitting there. Another aspect that comes up from S3 is, of course, many of the facilities are still not in these countries, in the underrepresented countries. So a lot of the facilities still tend to be clustered in the big five, which meant then maybe that also then leads to the fact that that community doesn't develop, because if you get a facility in that country, you're going to develop that. Now, there have been attempts, particularly with ELI, to specifically make that infrastructure in underrepresented states. Has that been successful? And the mechanism for doing that, Zolt, would you see with S3 being encouraged to do further activities where they locate those facilities in those countries? And what were the pros and the cons?
Okay, thanks. So before moving on to Eli, first I don't know the structure of Europlanet and how you support, let's say, those kind of TA activities. But we had an experience with the previous cost proposal that actually we lost participants, especially from these so-called new countries, because we had the so-called reimbursement scheme. And actually, there were young scientists who could not even afford to invest the travel money. So actually, the reimbursement scheme was not working for them. And we actually received a special request that if they can have a lump sum in advance, then they can come to such kind of events. So sometimes we don't even understand the real problem of those countries and those researchers. Of course, technically, if you can imagine, the cost bureaucracy, how you can do it, it's a nightmare, but the problem is there, okay? So this is one thing that you have to think about it, that the reimbursement as it is, which might work for us in an excellent way, maybe it's a no-no for some countries and for some researchers who doesn't have, their own budget in their own countries. So this is a kind of possibility to investigate. As for the ELI, the good thing, okay, ELI is the extreme light infrastructure. It's a large laser. You've seen on the S3. S3, it's a landmark facility in Eastern Europe, in Czech Republic, Hungary, and Romania. And the fact that this is actually in the region, obviously it helps a lot because you don't have to travel so much. And obviously the The call for the so-called laser beam time is an open call, which means that it's the evaluation based only on scientific merit. So actually, it is just the idea that is important, and obviously there is a program advisory committee like everywhere, and they have the ranks of the proposers, so you can make your experiment there. And in addition, how we conceived this facility is that actually the big idea is that locally you can receive every possible support, from workshops to data analysis to everything. So actually only the idea is important, and you don't need anything else brought from your home institute, just you. But on the other hand, I have to agree that the original plan is that we don't cover the local expenses and the travel costs. That should be covered by the sending institutes, because we cover the laser part. If this is what it's enough for you now, or should I elaborate on this?
Do you have any evidence that by having the facilities based in those countries, that the number of people applying from those countries or the underrepresented states increases?
I wouldn't say so yet. We are in the, let's say, in a ramp-up phase, and we are going around. But I have to tell you that, for example, we have specific workshops in different countries. Last week we were in Croatia, for example, and it was very interesting that I had the impression during and after our talks that they did not even know that in their vicinity there is such a facility. But now the interest was risen, and actually now they want to visit us and look around and see something. And we had something similar together as a joint venture with the US Embassy. And for example, we have now researchers from Sarajevo who actually submitted a proposal just because we had a kind of awareness raising event to show in that, let's say, in that particular geographical region that we are alive and we are hosting researchers.
Sorry to exploit you one more time, but because Daniel and Ketek aren't here, you've always been involved in that. Any ideas of what the participations are like in Ketek and any of the other access to the accelerators? Is there a similar problem? Is it people mainly coming from the big five, or?
For the Ketek, I think we should wait for the 2 o'clock presentation of Daniel for the Ketek. But Ketek is a starting community, but already a community. Okay, so actually, as I see from the distance, because we are responsible for our own TA activities, obviously, as I see, we already know who is coming. So I don't see really newcomers. And that was actually at the last Ketek meeting, the issue, how we advertise that we don't see now just the usual suspects, but actually people coming from the outside world.
Okay. Bella, do you want to say something about Atomkey and Europlanet? Because maybe it has been a success in building stuff there. You might want to say everything.
Okay. Yesterday I told a few words about it. And okay, so this is really a special story, I think, because we have an accelerator center in Debrecen. And when you visited us in 2018, it was just in the developing phase. We got some larger money for building up all the user beam lines. And immediately the idea came that we can establish there a new facility for astrophysics, astrochemistry, together with the UK universities. And it was a joint venture developing very fast. We had an atomic physics, atomic collision group there, working with a rather good international reputation. And so we had a kind of critical mass, and together with the help of the British partners, it was a rather fast process. So the first measurement was performed within 1.5 years, and the first TA in 2.5 years after getting the idea. So now we have maybe a problem because we have now 2 facilities providing TAs within Europlanet, and but this is a very time-consuming. I mean, the running cost is rather high. So it's accordingly the TA, the main part of the TA is to the cost of the facility. Travels are not so important in our case. Many of the TAs were done in a remote access mode during the COVID period, but it was no problem. The local community is rather strong. But for the continuation, we need a firm basis of financial support, which in the present situation, it's not easy for anybody, but especially for us, because we are in the leading age, in a rising period, and used already a lot of Hungarian national funds to improve the laboratory. But now we are in the position that we should proceed even faster, even more efficiently, and so we are very sensitive on this on the issues of getting new support from the European Union. Okay, so this is what I can tell.
So I think this is a very good topic for when we go to RI discussion of the future funding of Europlanet. This is actually very important, yeah, so that the local teams, they also need financial help to run the institutes and facilities. I wanted to add on the first point that you mentioned about, so you said about the reimbursement, that's an issue. And I actually often hear from students paying the Europlanet membership is also an issue because you need to have a credit card. And not everyone has a credit card, especially I can talk about non-European students, they often don't have, or even like in Germany, you have to pay a fee to have a credit card. And the students, they just don't want to pay it. I myself have paid twice so far for my students to become member. Of course, I got reimbursed, but so this is something maybe Europlanet can also think about how to change it. Is there a comment there?
Yes, it is actually possible to pay by bank transfer too. It is not fully integrated into the system yet. I'm going to be working on that, but it is possible now. Just contact me or contact anyone at ESF to put you in touch with me, and it is actually possible. We can do it.
Okay, but it's not like officially on the website.
Not yet, no.
Not
like
yet,
the system is still a bit under development. Like most of the functionalities are active and working. But there are still a few things we want to improve. And for example, probably trying to offer an easy way to pay by bank transfer is one of the things we would like to improve.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's a good news. I was wondering, is there any comments from the central hub? Andra, do you want to add anything about, I don't know, how to facilitate more the participation of the people from the central hub into, you know, EPSC, big events? We heard about funding.
Okay, thank you. So I'm the chair of the Central European Hub. That's why I got the question, and I'm also the kind of widening participation officer. You can. So we had already, as Anita said, a very interesting discussion on all these things on Tuesday. So we will try to put together the results of that discussion. And also, as Mate said, we have a lot of findings that improvements cannot be made only with money. Because even if you would give us 10 million euros only to us, I think the management wouldn't be able to cope with that. And also the priorities of these countries, as you have seen on the slide of Mate, if it's not the priority of the country to improve science, then we are blocked actually. Sorry, I'm a bit probably not very optimistic for the moment, but you might hear the news about Hungary in general. but also with other countries in Central Europe, all the systems are very diverse. And I have heard that in Czech Republic, there are good examples as well, also in this region, or of course in Austria, everything is perfect. No. Of course not, I know, but yes. And also another another point I heard you spoke about stamps, like in, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know the other countries, but someone, I don't know, from Poland you can say, but in our country, there is a very big lack of, for example, physics teachers. And the government found a very good solution. We teach less physics. So it's it's now a vicious cycle. And like Mate told me that there are no geophysics master students this year. No one applied. And you know, it will happen. And we can do outreach. We are trying to. But then students or pupils or kids are asking, okay, what should I do to become a scientist? And then, well, there are good universities, I don't know, in the UK. I mean, it's really starting to be really, really bad. So really the Caesar is even opening. And sorry, I for the moment, I can't say very positive things. And we are on a very small scale to... We can, like locally, we can have like this, this meeting is very good. And as someone was saying, the communication between the URS countries and non-URS countries, it's very important.
Is that, yeah.
Okay, just, just one remark. The diversity is so large that you can find in Hungary, for example, institutes where there is a very good management. So, I mean, so it's not a general. So I'm disturbed by this general negative picture a little bit. So if you are active and you can find the way to children, and you can find, so that you can do something.
Okay. We are very active, but we are blocked not only by institute management, but also by, like, especially I'm very sad about the universities, what is happening. And also Debrecen University, I think you understand, they can't even apply for European fundings now, it's blocked. So yes, yes, and then we will have no successors.
I have a question about some of the actions that Europlanet has been implementing, like the expert exchange and the mentoring activities. Do we see there a need towards the underrepresented countries?
Edita it will be better able to say about the mentoring, but actually the expert exchanges is a real success story for this. We have, I think it was, sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's in the order of 74% of expert exchanges involve underrepresented countries in both Europe and around the world. So I think it's something like 50% have a European underrepresented partner involved in the exchange, and 16%, 90%, I forget which, has a non-European, so from Botswana, from Ethiopia, involved in an international, and in some cases there's one partnership between Romania and Brazil, so they hit both. So that has been a real success story. But Edita, or do you want a moment to check figures? Yeah, okay.
Don't have too many mentees, students who would like to be in the program for, I don't know what kind of reasons, we do have more non-European students who want to be in the program, like India, like Botswana, Ethiopia, or United States. But we have some mentors from, not some, but a representative number of mentors from.
So you have more mentors from those countries than mentees.
Yes.
So it should be actually other way around, no? Somehow.
Yeah,
it should be.
Unusual, not kind of what you expect, but I think we at least kind of have leadership from the more senior researchers, at least who hopefully see the benefit in sharing their expertise. So thanks to those of you that do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get Paul out, Jerry, who's sitting at the back there. Good. One of the main aspects of all the research infrastructures was meant to be that it would encourage researchers in these countries to apply for those facilities. And we've seen the thing that, I mean, you've been looking after the radio and the optical telescopes for a long time. I mean, has this worked? I mean, has the idea that you can by having access to this, that scientists in these countries can do their research, which they wouldn't be able to do, does that actually hold up? I mean, is there evidence the fact that you've got those people to engage?
Yeah. Is this working? Yes. It is, yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear editor before, so I'll try and make sure you can hear this. Yeah, we, through Opticon, started a special program nearly 25 years ago to try to involve all of the countries that we defined as non-ESO members, which you're the same people you're talking about, plus a few others as underrepresented. The effort we made was very, very considerable, and that we had, fortunately, a very enthusiastic project scientist, a chap named John Davies from Edinburgh, and he was a passionate believer in this, and he spent a huge amount of time and money, actually, but his time traveling around every national astronomy meeting and every local astronomy meeting in every one of these countries, and encouraging people in all these countries to put in applications year after year after year. The statistics of what actually happened, it shows that for programs that we had under our control, which was essentially our training schools, we have a perfectly uniform and fair distribution of representation, and we've had 50% female involvement back since the 1980s, and the success rate of people in their careers who have been through those schools has been the same. Now, that's about 5 times better than the subject-wide average. So it does mean that if you can get people and train them up, you improve their chances of getting careers. To be fair, most of those people got careers in the bigger countries because there were no job opportunities, particularly back in the 80s, and times were different economically. But in terms of access to the facilities, the numbers of proposals have always been very small from the underrepresented countries. Now, there's 2 ways we can look at this. The first, we've looked very carefully at this, or John has looked very carefully at the statistics over the whole time. And in fact, the success rate, I should step back. We always implement the EC rule that all proposals are judged on scientific merit. Now, there are big subject biases, and that you do not tend to get people from underrepresented countries doing the most cutting-edge science. You know, they don't tend to put proposals in for cosmology or something, but the subjects that they put the proposals in are very strong proposals. And so the success rate per country is actually slightly higher for underrepresented countries than it is for big countries. So it's actually harder to get a project approved if you come from one of the big Western European countries than it is elsewhere. But the absolute number of proposals coming in is very small. Now, we've tried very hard to increase that number, and there's 2 ways of looking at it. One is to say that, well, we haven't had any success. The second is to say that well, okay, half of Europe's population is in underrepresented countries, but the fraction of Europe's astronomers, which is in those countries, is actually very small. Astronomy is a luxury science, to be honest, for many people. And there are very small numbers of universities with small numbers of positions. And so in the sense of the fraction of the local community which is being supported, to the best of our knowledge, it's about the same, independent of country, unless you come from Germany or the Netherlands, where it's much harder to get support. We're clearly biased against Germany and the Netherlands. But for all the rest, the problem is small numbers, but there are very few people interested. And all of the efforts we've made, one of the most we thought was going to be the most successful is that for every failed or rejected proposal that came in, we, or at least not we, the time allocation committee offered to provide a tutorial, a one-to-one tutorial for that applicant for a stronger proposal in future. People didn't want that at all. And we think that's because people from underrepresented countries don't want to be treated like second-class citizens. They want to be treated like proper scientists and judged on their merits. But the thing that has worked is to have special proposal writing sessions in every opportunity. So we put them in all our schools, but also in all other meetings and things we have. And even these days, we discovered it accidentally through COVID and are carrying it on, just online proposal writing schools, purely virtual. And huge numbers of people come to those and they work. So we think that's the lesson we've learned, is we don't think we're biased. We think people want to be treated as equals. They are pretty well being treated as equals, and they want to be given the opportunity to be competitive, not to be given biased treatment. Now, that inevitably means the numbers correspond to essentially the research wealth of a country rather than its population, but there's nothing we can do about that.
There is a comment.
Thank you very much. I mean, I just would like to second also that what my predecessor now said, that actually many of the countries of the less represented member state, especially the Baltic countries, they do not really like this notion that they are seen as a kind of development country where they have third world country which has to be helped. We had actually one activity which was the European Astrobiology Campus, which actually still exists in the European Astrobiology Institute, but it started as an Erasmus plus strategic partnership, and it was run by the University of Tartu in Estonia, very successfully. And when we were talking about less represented member states, they were starting to get a little bit annoyed. So, I mean, what do you think we are, third world here in Estonia? I mean, very modern facilities there, I mean, which we would, even from Sweden, we would like to have. So there's a lot of development going on in science there. So, I mean, these are not backward countries at all.
Yes, I was asked to react because there is a conversation about underrepresented countries. So I do not agree. We understand that Baltic states are underrepresented countries. And I don't know who made such an impression that we think that our science, how to say, financing is the same as in Western European countries. Of course, it is lower, and we noticed very well when Lithuania became country of the European Union, and we were able to receive funding from special programs to develop our science and other fields which should be developed. So it was a very large improvement, and this those efforts should continue. And when the salaries become larger and stipendia of PhD students become larger, we start to receive applications from other countries, also from the Central Europe countries and other countries. And this way, the level of science and variety of disciplines which we can be involved is increasing. And so we are underrepresented countries.
So I think the topic here is not about science, but about financials. That we need more financial help. That people who do science in underrepresented countries, they come to big events and they present their science. So that's
of
the
course.
main focus.
There are fields of science where we are strong and can compete, of course, but we have to work how to say with larger efforts to reach that with smaller teams and so on. So we have to work hard to be equal in some fields, but we need attention and support.
Anyone wants to add anything on that? Any comments still to capture?
I mean, I think that Vilnius has been a real case study of how well research infrastructures can work in bringing and supporting and building capacity within the community, within the research community. I mean, the role that Vilnius has played within successive Europlanet projects, thanks to you and the vision of you, and also the support of your team, and particularly the summer schools that you've organised for many years now, has really shown how that infrastructure can be built up and increased. And so, you know, the Vilnius now is playing senior management roles within the project, and hopefully we'll go on to do that. And within the telescope network, again, you've been sort of influential in how that's been shaped and leading that and taking that forward. So I think, you know, within Europlanet, we feel that, you know, this is that on the low level, we know that we've got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of good case studies, though. I think Vilnius is one. Atomki, the ice chambers there is another one that we're very proud of. And Nigel, do you want to say something about that?
My colleagues say that. I think, as I say again, I'd like comments from other people in other networks, but I mean, I do hear this term underrepresented states. So I do blanch it a little bit every time I hear it. The Commission use it. I mean, you know, there are many examples, and I think this is across the diversity. We can also talk about activities for female scientists and other underrepresented groups, and we haven't talked about the fact that this is rather a white community. You know, where are our colleagues from the other ethnic minorities? You know, I mean, but I wonder sometimes that in trying to do something positive, and you know, trying to do something which we think we're doing it well, the community doesn't respond in the way that we want. I mean, the classic was in the UK, where many years ago the Institute of Physics came up with a brilliant idea of having a special award for women. They wanted to have the Woman Physicist of the Year. And the women said, I don't want an award for being a woman. I want to be because I'm the best condensed matter physicist or the best astronomer. And it kind of, the IOP, which was very white and male, said, oh, but we thought this is what you'd want. Right. So I do think occasionally we're in the underrepresented states issue as well. This might be something that that the Commission's whole activities, this desire for what they want to do, maybe they're not tackling the actual issue.
This gives me the idea that can we find out a way how to know what these people or what they want? Because also now we are now speaking here, but we should probably ask people, like, sorry, I will now point on two people, to tell us what we can help, like how we can do things, because we are, now the diagnosis is there, so now we need to cure or do things. So probably we can now. But may I ask you about, like, for example, Poland? What could be helped, or how these structures could be? Sorry for pointing, because yeah, just say your view. You have PhD.
Yeah, so I think that in Poland, becoming a scientist isn't really like pushed. So it's really hard. Like there's plenty of people with bachelor degrees or master degrees, but after that, when you're trying to become a PhD, like the scholarship for PhDs is way below the minimum wage. So you have to decide if you want to invest your time and your money to become a scientist, or do you want to like have do you want to live at some like good level. So I think that's one of the issues.
So this goes under the title of funding, more funding.
Again, and yeah, this is again like a political decision how much they invest.
Hi everyone, I'm Aga Słowikowska. I'm now the JIVE director, but I'm Polish and I'm also affiliated with Nicolaus Copernicus University in Toruń. And I'm also academic there. So just comment for the status of PhD. I think that Polish astronomy is doing quite well. We have been involved in many international collaboration as well. Comment for the PhD, I think now we, indeed, it's true, but it's not true only for in Poland that the salaries are higher in the industry. I mean, it's very hard to compete, and it's not only, I mean, if you go to Germany, Netherlands, I mean, whatever, it's very hard. But still, I think that at least at Nicolaus Copernicus, we offer pretty decent PhD scholarship, so encourage, I mean, you can apply. But indeed, we need to get more involved in the European project. Like, I don't know, for example, now I'm working on that Poland will join ERIM. It is important, and it is important to give this visibility, how important it is to be a part of ERIM. We are EVN station, but we are not an ERIM now. So it's, however, I don't know, we are not the Europlanet. I mean, at least Toruń. Maybe we should talk about this. Yeah. But what I see is like, indeed, I'm very surprised how many students, astronomy students, are in Netherlands. In Groningen, can you believe it that you have 100 bachelor students in astronomy? I was really shocked, and I mean, I don't know how they do it, but they do it really great. So I think we should, I don't know, go there, learn, and really implement, because in Toruń, I don't know, roughly, on the first year, we have like 10, maybe 15 students at the first year. And of course, I mean, they don't get into bachelor, you know, all of them, yeah. So, yeah, so it's like, we need kind of, but this is like in Netherlands, you are recognized like everyone want to join and become an astronomer, because it's not only prestige, but it's also like, you know, very interesting. It's a lot of also culture, I would say. Yeah, so we have to work on that, and we have to be kind of better in the PR. I think there is, yeah, still a lot of things to do. And you have to say that, yeah, I mean, come and study. And even if you get the master, you don't have to, you know, be a scientist, but you have such a great skills that you can fit in so many other fields, also in the industry, and then make really good money. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's anybody here from the industry group, but they were discussing this yesterday. But they were discussing also this problem that the fact that people who want to do that the students don't see oh, I've done my undergraduate degree or whatever in astronomy, I will go and work in industry. There was a lot of discussion about the reluctance to transfer that boundary, whereas industry was saying, hang on, we're going to build up a space industry in Europe, we need you. So there's some cross-boundary issues there that they were discussing. But I think, Zolt, you wanted to...
Yeah, I would like to come back a little bit to the infrastructure problem. So if you listen to one of the previous talks, virtual talks about the nanoscience network, then you could see that there was actually 0 institutes from Eastern Europe. It was 100% just Western Europe institutes. Actually, it can be because there is any infrastructure, or they just did not want to join any Eastern Europeans. So I think this shows the problem of the infrastructure. And by the way, I think if there could be a kind of generous suggestions from, let's say, such a community, I would push a little bit more for implementing core infrastructures in Eastern European countries, because our experience was that it was very difficult to have finally, let's say, top-level core infrastructure. It was actually covered by structural funds mostly. But once we got the core infrastructure, then we could use it for cultural heritage, nuclear astrophysics, and other things, including Europlanet. But Europlanet was not the only. I mean, just because of Europlanet request, we could not have the core infrastructure. That was a kind of basic investment. But once it was there, we could use it. And actually, I think it was a very nice occasion that actually we could combine our core infrastructure with something coming from outside, like this Yuki ice setup. Because probably if we don't have this infrastructure, there is no way that a kind of high-level end station goes to us, and vice versa. We could not have an infrastructure just because somebody shows up with a request for the, let's say, beamline for the ice stuff, for the ice infrastructure. So anyway, so my point is that if there are general statements that high-level infrastructure should exist in Eastern European countries, that would probably long-term have also for the students, because then they locally can do high-level stuff and they don't have to go out. Thanks.
And that's probably a good thing for S3. I know they're not here, but I mean, I think that's a message that we can start to pass back to S3. Agnieszka, do you want to say anything about the structures?
Yeah, it's like, I think we are, I mean, yeah, sorry, I'm very local now, like talking only for, stating for Poland, but what I think we're still missing is like, we don't have really good networking. In a sense, I think we have really good example also of infrastructure. Just thinking about the Department of Physics and Astronomy in Toro, and we have great quantum lab and quantum communication, and I know that they really do a lot. But what is also true, it's very hard to find people to work. Like, it's very hard to find people for postdoc position. We are really, really lacking people, like human resources. This was my comment. And the second would be that, we need more networking. I think we have to really work on that. This is my kind of first impression.
I mean, as I said, it's interesting that the ERC now have this scheme that they recognise that not enough are going to these countries. So now there is a kind of backup plan if you put in your ERC and you don't get 92, but you're close, that maybe there'll be funds to encourage people to, if you are applying to a centre in one of the underrepresented states, then there's another funding scheme. But you're absolutely right. The problem is that people don't want to apply. Even though, if they're working there, they'd have a very nice lifestyle because they'd have a salary which is sort of more Western European style salary in a country where you can buy a lot more for your money. But still don't people want to go there because maybe they think that if they go there, they won't be able to do as good a science as they will somewhere else, and that will affect their career. So it's this continuing loop. But I think we need to encourage people to do that. But I mean, I think it'd be really nice to listen to talk in this community. What Jerry was saying. I mean, I think that maybe, if we discuss this afternoon, this idea of networks, of actually that, we can be more represented in these meetings, and we can do that. Because what I gathered from Jerry was that if you've got somebody who really is prepared to spend the time and go around and go to all the meetings, well, maybe you don't need the same person going to all the meetings, but if we pool together and we make sure we have these same discussions, then maybe that's a way of being represented and getting there. I guess you're saying so much. I mean, I think there is some evidence that actually going to the country and talking to the people in the country helps.
So networking.
Networking, I would say.
Yeah, that's
Isabel.
I would like to ask you, when you do this underrepresenting countries, right? When you do the nationality, how do you count the double ones or multiple? This is one thing. And if you made some statistic on IAU, because what we have when you talk about Europlanet, RadioNet, or ORP, it's only part of use of the infrastructure. Okay, we don't have all astronomers on board from the state, or we don't count them for the statistic. They use the infrastructure, but then don't show up. So maybe based on IAU membership per country, this is what could give us some bigger statistic what the astronomer population, let's say, from different are.
I mean, one of our problems is that our community isn't just astronomers, so we have a lot of geologists and scientists and other people as well. So the IAU is not necessarily representative of the planetary science community. In terms of nationality, it's a really difficult thing because you have the nationality, and then you have where they're working at the moment, and as you say, there may be multiple affiliations. I mean, generally it's kind of the what they report, and so for instance, it's meeting one of the participants is US/Estonia, and so we've included Estonia in there, but yeah, it's not that straightforward. So there is a lot of, I mean, everything. I think this is the problem: is that a lot of what we have at the moment is all very fuzzy and not very methodical. And this is why we really could benefit from doing it properly, and having a proper social scientist doing a proper demographic survey, and really kind of breaking down and thinking about the questions that we should be asking, not just now, but in 5 years' time. Because having that longitudinal study will also be really important for us.
I just actually repeat what Anita is saying, but what is important in these problems is the affiliation and not the nationality or the origin of the person. Because origin or nationality probably it might be important for their education, but it's usually the science is good what they are doing, and even underrepresented states have normally very good education, so that's not where the problem comes. It's afterwards most of the time. So at least when I'm doing the statistic, I look on the affiliation, because that's what influences these problems.
And certainly in terms of meetings, I mean that's what's counted. So, yeah.
But I think it's actually interesting to know how many, for example, Estonian, they are now in Germany or UK or France, and therefore to see what is the potential. Like you need funding to get them a postdoc so that they go back. It's not the problem, but it can show a solution to these countries, actually. No.
Yes, and sorry, I was just gonna say, and also just in one of the things that came up in the discussion on Tuesday is people's desire to return to their national country. So it may be that you go and you study elsewhere and you work for a while, but in many cases people want to return home if there is a suitable opportunity. Sorry.
So about these nationalities going back, for example, I'm a returner. Like after 12 years abroad, I returned, and there was a big motivation also from the management that they took home a lot of young scientists after several years experience abroad. It was in 2015, around that. But finally, we ended up, probably all of them, like being kind of blocked because administration and again lack of like help, like not scientists, but the administration, that I ended up doing myself the financial work, or as I was saying on Tuesday, I was filling up my own desk. And for example, our meeting room, it was me who designed how we refurbished the meeting room, like hitting out wall. I was discussing with the people. So finally it went like I couldn't publish first author paper since I'm at home. So it is nice to go home. I'm sure it was good that I went home because I was teaching. So I give a vision, and I was bringing home like, okay, not papers, but I have like services and tools we developed at home, which is useful. But so we have still, it's very hard to return.
I think it's just having this number is a good tool when you talk with, institute managers or politicians to say, see, this is the number we can motivate to come back if we improve management, if we improve funding. I think it's a good tool to just have in hand when you negotiate and you try to convince and to show in these meetings, only to show the potentials that these countries are missing. Yeah.
Just on this returning program, I don't know if there's anybody here from Spain, because Spain is, Spain 30 years ago, you would have put that into one of the not so developed countries. But they've done, their science has improved quite dramatically, particularly in the space area, and they had a program of return. And I'm sure there are disadvantages, but I just wonder if there's anything we could learn from how they tried to rebuild their base. And if there's anybody here from Spain, maybe Jonas. Anybody from Spain?
Well, that concludes it. We need another session.
Okay. Time for lunch.
Okay. Is there any other topic here, like topic with the burning comment? Yeah.
Whatever we do, I think we still do it for the future generation, right? And one of the threat, we already start to talk about this in Poland. The demography is going really, really bad. We have, for years, the birth rate, when you count it, it's really on minus. So there will be no enough young people to teach them. And we are already now discussing that in 10 years' time, maybe we will have to close some of the departments. And this is really a serious problem, right? And it will, of course, affect all the discipline, including astronomy. So we have to kind of think about this as well. Yeah, this was just kind of general comment. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for the very nice discussion. There is never an end to such a discussion, no, but it's good to take note and to continue talking about it. Then I wish you all a nice lunch and see you then in the afternoon. Thank you.